The Unplayable Podcast is proudly presented by Qantas, the official podcast partner and the official airline partner of Cricket Australia. Once again this season, Qantas is proud to be flying Australia's cricketers as they take on the world. Hello everybody, welcome to the Unplayable Podcast. A very big day for Australia at the SCG. They now lead by 134 runs. Hundreds to Travis Head and Steve Smith highlighted the day, and it was another tough day in the field for the English bowlers, wasn't it, Lou? But where do we start with? We've got to start with those hundreds, don't we? Travis Head and Steve Smith.
Yeah, well, it felt like two kind of current icons of Australian cricket just got to be themselves today. That was my takeaway from it. You know, Travis Head begins the day adding 72 to his overnight tally and just goes about it in the most laconic way you could possibly go about it. Walking singles, smashing sixes, chatting with umpires, just, you know, all-round larrikin, good bloke that has kind of made him a loved figure in Australian cricket. And then Steve Smith just being the odd unit that he is, signalling wides, moving people from behind the side screen, like doing his funny hand movements. It was all there today.
On that Travis Head bit about being laconic and being relaxed and walking singles, I know you're big on this, that you made a point of...
I thought you might have been starting with something else, which I want to get to after this on Travis Head, but yeah, I see where you're going here, yep.
You've been big on the fact that England have allowed him to walk singles. They haven't shied at his end when he's just been dawdling through. They've always had sweepers on the boundary, it has seemed, so there have been lots of options and opportunities for him to do that. I think in Perth or Adelaide we saw him walk backwards for an entire run. It's been pretty funny stuff, but also from an English point of view, you'd probably be annoyed if that was your team allowing that to happen.
Well, let's start with what Trav Head had to say about that, and then I'll tell you what I kind of think about it. I asked Travis Head in the press conference just now, I felt like it was a bit of a weird question, but did you expect England to maybe throw the ball at your stumps a few more times? These are supposed to be high intensity international games of cricket. And he is walking a lot of singles. He's hitting, to his credit, he's setting the deep fielders back. I'm not criticising England for doing that. You have to do it, otherwise he's going to score at an even quicker rate than he is. But what the deep fielders... So he kind of says that he walks them and he does the walking backwards and he does it to elicit a response from the change rooms, and it speaks a lot to... his kind of larrikin personality, but also he is a guy who thinks a lot about, I think, team chemistry, team vibes, all these things. I think he's a very selfless cricketer, and so the way he conducts himself does have an eye on his teammates. Maybe that's giving him too much credit, but that's kind of basically what he said when I asked him about it. What I think is, from an England point of view, surely you're picking up the ball at deep square leg or deep third man or wherever, and throwing the ball at his end every single time. And yes, you're probably not going to get a run out, because it's not like he's not looking at the ball when it's going down to the fielders. But if you can make him exert a little bit, let's say he runs or walks 30 singles in his innings. I reckon it's probably fair to say he walked more than that. But that's 30 times you're making him at least run at a higher intensity, at least half the pitch. You're probably not getting a run out, but over the course of a long innings, that is going to wear you down. And every 100 in this series, they've been big ones. It's been 120. This one's 163, and the one in Brisbane,
one in Adelaide was 170.
One Adelaide, exactly. Yeah, 170. Sorry, in Adelaide. Yeah. So he's scoring heavily after making 100, despite maybe by his own admission not being the absolute fittest guy in world cricket. That's got to be a major cross against what England, surely, and it's interesting they don't have a fielding coach out here. Surely the first thing the fielding coach is saying after the first time he sees that is ping the ball at Travis Head's stumps. I just thought that's basics of cricket that they've allowed him to get away with this whole series.
Yeah, it's a show of intensity in the field as well, isn't it? When you're trying to attempt to get run-outs, even if there might be slight chances. But
and pride, right?
Pride,
you're getting battered everywhere. Matthew Potts, Ricky Ponting, I think, said he felt sorry for him today. That's not a dig at Matthew Potts. That's a guy who's trying his best. Surely as a matter of just backing up your teammates, as a matter of backing up, say, Ben Stokes and Bryden Cast and Josh Tongue, who tried their guts out today. There's no no one's saying they're not trying, but you've got to surely have a bit of pride in your teammates. The way Travis Head looks out for his teammates.
It's a good point. And also at the tea break on Fox Cricket, Travis Head said he was getting pretty tired as well by the time he'd faced 166 balls. So what if he's getting tired when he's only faced 100 or only faced 80?
Yeah, so they could have at least, you're probably not going to elicit a wicket, if he's facing 100 balls and hitting 100 off as many of them, you're probably not going to get him out before then by doing that. But yeah, maybe you get him out for 110, 120. That can be the difference between winning a game and not.
Now, Travis Head has scored 11 Test centuries, 7 of them over 150. I asked him a question if he wanted to get to a double century in Test cricket. Didn't quite word it like that. Been out, I think, 7 times between 150 and 175. Does that irk you? Or do you want to get to 200? Is that a milestone you're after?
Beggars can't be choosers. It's a pretty shit stat, isn't it? Yeah, much rather 160 to 170 than 0 to 10. So I ain't going to complain about that.
I think he's got a brutal sense of humour, and for those, it's worth watching the full press conference on cricket.com.au when after you've listened to this. Travis Head went back at you, and I think I'm allowed to say this on the podcast. So I guess if Travis Head's allowed to say it in a press conference, but he said it was a shit stat that you'd thrown out at him. And I thought that was mean, Josh, because I did not think it was a shit stat. I think it was reinforcing the point you'd made earlier in the question, which was about basically, do you want to get to that 200 mark? He didn't quite see it that way.
There was a little aspect of shitness to it, I'll give it that.
Yeah.
Because, and his point was you can't complain about scoring over 150. Like, you'll take it every day of the week over scoring 15 or 20. But, probably the delivery was a bit more brutal than I was expecting.
Yeah. And I don't think anyone's hanging him for getting out in the nervous 150s, 60s and 70s.
We have seen players in the past, though, if they get out in the 190s, get quite frustrated and angry because...
Don't you hate that?
I know, it must be frustrating.
It's one of the things I hate most about cricket.
Clearly, Travis Head is not one of those. But Steve Smith, he got another century today. His 13th in Ashes cricket. I loved the moment when he brought it up. A bit of good game awareness from Bo Webster coming back for the third, knowing that Smith was on 97. Webster was running through to the danger end. And my Liquorland cheers to that moment, Lou, is actually not the moment itself, but all the idiosyncratic mannerisms around Smith today. You touched on it off the top. He was doing a lot of umpiring. He was even doing a bit of sledging. He had the fidgeting going. He had everything going. And he was the most distracted I think I've ever seen him. He stopped play for... people in the crowd moving. I counted 6 or 7 times. He was also distracted by Bryden Caster's sunglasses at one point. He was distracted by a flyer on the sunscreen. He was distracted by a woman eating ice creams.
She wasn't eating the ice cream. She was transporting them back to her seatmates, I think.
I mean, that's pretty much a royal flush in terms of all the distractions you can get at a cricket ground.
I missed the sun cream one. What was that one?
That was, those signs that people hold up in the crowd. It says 6 on one side and 4 on the other. There was one in the middle of the sight screen, and so one of the patrons crawled across to pick it off. And but of course, the game couldn't start until that was cleared. But I mean, it emphasises the point that Smith, and it's been said many times, he's a batting savant, isn't it? He needs all the conditions to be correct. And today, once he got them correct, he was on. He wasn't going to get out.
So I was watching him in the lead into this test. I think it was the day before the test, and he was batting under quite dark skies on the day before the test in the nets, and it was so dark that some of the television reporters had to put their lights on to do their live crosses. And so how they typically do it is they have Steve Smith or whoever it is batting in the background, and it's I'm Joe Bloggs from Fox Sports or ABC or whatever, and it looks like it shows that they're there at the venue, and you got to get that light on the face of the reporter. Well, Smith, while he was batting, I mean, this was even more. So today, Cast was at mid-off. The reporters were probably at like just a forward point, so way out of his eye line, you would think. But twice, I think he got the guy from Fox, and he got the guy from the lady from the ABC to turn off their lights, and he was kind of complaining about having the lights in his eyes. If I can continue my rant against England, the Brighton cast thing with the sunglasses.
Yes, I know you've got a strong take on this.
Yeah, well, I mean, how about no Steve Smith?
So let's walk this back for those who missed it, and we will have the video. Cast was fielding at mid-off. He had his sunglasses on the front of his England cap, and they were reflecting the sunlight into Steve's vision. Steve then asked him to just flip the sunglasses onto the back of his head, which Cast obliged, didn't he?
Straight away. Could you imagine Steve Smith asking Stuart Broad that question? Smith, I think, would be smart enough to know not to ask Broady that question, because if he knew about that being an issue, he'd be dancing around and flicking his sunnies up and down like that. And I just thought that was a sign of, and it's really hard to criticise Cast, because out of everyone, out of anyone from this England team, he's been the one who's just tried his absolute pants off in this series. So not a slight against him, but how about no, Steve? I'm going to wear my sunglasses where I want to. I'm at mid off. They shouldn't be in your eye line. Deal with it, mate. It staggered me that a competitor like Ben Stokes would allow his teammate to kind of go on with that.
Can you imagine if you asked the opposing mid-off next Saturday when you're playing to move their sunglasses onto the back of their
Could
head?
you imagine how much sledging you would kind of get? And it jars a bit, I think, with what happened with Marnus Labuschagne last night, and what, of all people, Stuart Broad was kind of retelling on Channel 7 this morning. So he said that he'd spoken to Ben Stokes and relayed his version of the story from the heated exchange that Stokes had with Labuschagne. So from Stokes' retelling, Labuschagne had said something to Travis Head, encouraging Travis Head. I think this is more or less what we suspected, saying "Oh, great shot, well done," bowling on the leg pad, on the pads or something. And so there was an element of maybe goading Stokes without actually speaking to him. And it seemed to be something. I think he must have said something about I was missing leg. And apparently Stokes said, we don't need 3 umpires out here. And that's why he had those 3 fingers up when he was kind of sledging him. So that's all that was. And Broad was retelling that. So, and then Stokes gets him out the next over, Labuschagne that is. And apparently there's an England plan to get Labuschagne out of his bubble. So, getting into the contest with him. And Stokes took that opportunity, and the plan worked. So take that for what it is. They're trying to get in Marnus's face and trying to get him out of his bubble. Well, how about trying that with Travis Head? How about trying that with Steve Smith? It might be worth it. They've tried everything else to Steve Smith. They've tried everything else to Travis Head. Bumpers. They had Matthew Potts bowling that really hard one with over the wicket, trying to bowl wide of off stump with a 7-2 field. Maybe getting in his face and throwing the ball at his end could be something they could have tried.
Well, Smith was allowed to run his own show today, and so was Head, weren't they?
This started about a thing on Smith. Yeah, we should keep going on that, because the other one that you hinted at was the Jacob Bethel calling out the throwdown.
Yeah.
You were listening in for that one.
Oh, I couldn't believe it. I know Smith likes to talk to himself when he's batting, but when the keeper's up to the stumps and the spin bowler's only half a pitch away, it was a surprise to hear him say to himself, after he hit the ball straight to the fielder on the bounce, "Oh, Steve, that was awful. That was a genuine throwdown." Now, the bowler would have definitely heard that if the stump marks are picking it up. I wonder what he's thinking about that.
Yeah, it's classic Steve, isn't it? Because I don't think he would have even realised that was a sledge that the bowler would be like, "Oh, hang on, I'm trying my best out here. I'm just playing my second Ashes test." The other one was signalling the wide when poor old Matthew Potts bowled a bouncer on the way through the keeper. Smith was right. He got the call in his favour. Poor Potts had I think maybe the 4th or 5th worst wicketless Ashes spell in history by the close of play. What was it? None for 100 and 41, having opened the bowling. I mean, it was a tough one. He just looked like he'd lost. I mean, earlier it looked like he'd kind of lost confidence, right? Like Head's just absolutely belting him everywhere.
Well, first 3 balls of the day went for 4.
That's right.
Potts, yeah.
Yeah. So that's you're on a hotting to nothing, having already kind of been bashed around the previous night. And then by the end of the day, it looked like a physical challenge. Like he was being asked to bowl bouncers. He was only really hitting the 125k an hour mark. And it was a strange ploy for Stokes to kind of ask him to follow, and like we were watching him and it looked like his action was kind of falling apart. That I think that's a more physical thing. He's bowled about 20 overs in a day, 25 for the innings. When you haven't played much cricket in the last few months, that's it's going to take a toll on you.
Yeah, so Steve Smith moved past Sir Jack Hobbs for the second most Ashes runs now and second most Ashes centuries, behind only the great Sir Donald Bradman Lou. Another guy who has knocked off a lot of milestones in his career, Usman Khawaja, walked out at number, 6 today. Great applause from the home crowd. It might not be the last time we see him bat. And I think the way that Usman walked off after he was dismissed today, he was sort of assuming he'd get another crack as well, because he didn't really acknowledge the crowd at all, didn't raise the bat, nothing like that, just walked straight off. So I think he feels like he might get another shot on day 5.
He's optimistic. At that point, he probably wouldn't have been thinking that much about how much ahead they are and how much ahead they could get. England would not only need to make Australia bat again at this rate, they would need to set them enough runs to mean that Australia would need to get 3 wickets down. It would be an interesting one. Like, let's fast forwarding a bit here, and we might be getting ahead of ourselves. But if they say they set up a chase of 20 or 30, I wonder if Trav,
Good shout.
the ultimate team man, would say to Uzi, "Hey, you want to open batting just one last time, mate?"
And I think day 4 we're also going to have some thank you Usman activations around the ground. Maybe I heard a whisper some signage on the ground, those sorts of things. So tomorrow will be Usman Khawaja Day. After today was, of course, Jane McGrath Day. Lots of great money raised for the McGrath Foundation, and still plenty of time to get your virtual pink seat as well. Pinktest.com.au is the place to go to get that. So lots of great activations happening this week.
Yeah, and bold of Cricket Australia to activate anything for day 4, but they'll get their wish. You probably are going into day 5 unless England really capitulated with the bat on day 4. But you'd think Australia, at this rate, they're 134 ahead. Smith is still going. He's a machine. He could keep batting for a while. Webster, has batted at 6 in the Test team. He's at 9 here, and he's looked very strong. And you've still got Mitchell Starc to come, who's averaging 30 in the series. So, the end could come quite quick to this innings because they are already 7 wickets down. But it wouldn't absolutely shock you to see them put on a mammoth 650, 700 run kind of total here.
Definitely, yeah. Webster looked replaced, and he sort of came in only in the last hour and a half of the day, and as you have touched on, the bowlers were flagging by that point, but there was lots of spin for the spinners. Jacks and Bethel both getting the ball to rip a little bit, so Webster had to do his bit and play second fiddle to Smith, but he's on to 42 not out. So again, he just always contributes when he comes into this Australian team, and dare say he won't be batting at number 9 much anymore in his career.
I wouldn't have thought. Yeah, and it's been a full year since he made his debut in Test cricket against India. And the point about spin's an interesting one because Bethel got asked about whether he saw some signs of turn out of that SAG wicket. Neither team, of course, have picked a frontline spinner. And he said there was when you kind of pitched it in the. I can't remember if he said it was when you pitch in the straight or when you pitch in the wider bits. That's when you kind of get a bit. I think maybe he was saying when you hit the foot marks, he's getting a bit more turn out of there. So. That's an interesting one because, if Australia do get to the point where, say they try and bat once and bat big and they get, 200, 250, 300 ahead, they might be looking to England could shut up shop. That would be an interesting one, right? And they might be needing to turn to some spin and they don't have Todd Murphy there.
Yeah, well, we might see a bit of Travis Head with the ball. Lou, just before we finish, I want to get your take on that first session that we saw today at lunch. You called it England's worst session of the series. They dropped 4 catches, some obviously harder than others, but the Jacks one, which was Travis Head when he was on 121, was the clearly obvious one. They also maybe missed a half chance for a run out and then wasted 2 reviews on Michael Neser, both of them unsuccessful. Do you stand by that a couple of hours later that it was definitely their worst of a pretty tough series?
Yeah, absolutely. It was their worst session. I thought the last 2 sessions they at least stuck at it a bit more. They held their catches. Duckett caught a good one on the square leg fence after being unsighted. Yeah, it was a shocker, that first one. Like the Will Jacks catch, the Zach Crawley catch that went down at leg slip. He just looked like he wasn't low enough, and you just got to be ready for if you're in its leg slip. That's a position that Alex Carey's gone out 3 times to now. He just wasn't in a good catching position. A little bit you got to be a little bit more easy on Cast. Dropped a really tough catch down at, to call it even a drop catch, it's probably a little bit unfair. And then Will Jacks drops one off his own bowling that was a little bit more gettable, but
hit pretty hard.
Yeah, but like if you're going to come back into a test like this, I mean, even at that point they weren't really that far behind in it. So you're going to kind of need something spectacular. And I think I saw something saying that England have taken only about 75% of their catches this series. So that's not going to win you many games in Australia with a record like that. The other bit that you brought up, like the two reviews, it's hard to go too hard on anyone who wastes or who the reviews are hard, right? Like it's hard to know exactly what's in line with what. But if it's a 50-50 call, are you going to use him on Michael Nisa, who really, it was probably the worst innings I've seen him play. He looked really frustrated with himself. Like he just couldn't hit the ball off the square. He played and missed a lot. When it comes to those 50-50 calls, surely you're not using him on Michael Nisa. Surely you're waiting for Travis Head or Steve Smith or Alex Carey. But yeah, burnt reviews.
That's the other point. England, no reviews remaining. They need to get 3 Aussie wickets tomorrow pretty quickly to stay in this match. That's been the Unplayable Podcast. We'll catch you for day 4 at the SCG. Usman Khawaja Day.